Welcome back to the Web365 clone. In this episode, we build functionalities for the open file and the new file. If you have not watched the previous tutorials, the link is in the description below. We have already started. We have built the user interface, but for now, it does nothing when we click on the icons. So that's what we are going to do. First, we create a function, a Python file, which I'll call functions.py. You can call it anything. And then in here, we create some functions that we later import into this application. So here we will quickly define function called new. We pass in the parameter UI because when we import it into the main file, we pass in self to replace the UI that is here. And here we want to check if the the check should be performed on the main file itself. But for now, let's just say UI.textEdit. That means the text editor there. And then here we want to clear .clear. If you are creating a new file, then of course you have to clear the text edit. And then we also have to set the file name. For now, we have not set that variable, but we'll set it very soon. File name equal to, and then we set it to none. We also want to display a message at the status bar. So UI dot status bar dot show message. We want to show a message for the user, and then the message can be a new file has been created. Make sure you save it. So that's the message we show at the status bar when the user creates a new file. And then we also now want to set window title. So we set the window title. Of course, if it's a new file is created, the window title should change, as is seen in most applications. And this one we want to set the title to, I think it should be untitled. Untitled. And then here you can name it anything. Mine is called Tomix Docs. So that's all we have to do in this file for now. We can come back to the main.py, and then here we declare some inits. There are some functionalities we want to start when our program starts. Before the init, let's declare some globals also, which are just some global variables that we use in our program. One of our globals will be the file name that we declared here. This one will keep track of the file name that is coming in, and then we will use it later when we want to do a lot of stuff. Self dot file name, and then for now we set it equal to none as we did before. And then now in the finished version, you could see that when we run it, the Copilot session does not show. It doesn't show by default. It should be shown when the user clicks on this bot. So even before we do the open and new, let's just fix that one first. That will be inside the init. We want to self.bot frame. That is how we called it. Okay, chatbot frame dot hide. We want to hide it when the application starts. So for now, when I run it, you see that it is hidden, but we have not created a functionality to bring it back. So when we click on this one, it does not come back. So let's quickly create this function to do that. Inside the same class, but now one level up, that is on the same level, the init function or method, we declare the chatbot function, the one that will display it and then also hide it. This function we call it open chatbot underscore chatbot. And then in here we will, as you will see in almost all my applications, I use a try except block a lot, because in applications like this, they help you save a lot of time, and then your application will be crashing anytime that it faces things that some errors, or when the device trying to read files and all that. But just try and follow, you understand it's not so easy to comprehend. It's not so difficult to comprehend, sorry. So now we want to check that if self dot chatbot frame dot is visible. We want to know if it's visible, then we want to hide it. Now self dot chatbot frame dot hide. Else, and then self dot chatbot frame dot show. So this function will first check if it exists fine. If it is hidden, it will also bring it back. And now we close our except block to except. And then what I mostly do is I catch it a general exception, except exception as E. And then here I will print a descriptive error to the terminal. So print inside an F string, maybe open chatbot error. And then I pass in the particular error. So we can now connect this function here to our chatbot action there, that action there. So we can create our connections also here. And then in here I can say self.action open assistant dot triggered dot connect. We want to connect self dot open chatbot without the open and close parentheses. So now when we run our application, it will be hidden by default. When you click on it, it comes back. When we close it, it goes just like that. And then, yes, now we can focus on the new and the open. Remember, we created this new file function here. We need it here. So what we have to do is to come into this main.py file, and then from functions, import. We want to import everything. But one of the things that we have to fix also is the title of the application. When it opens like this, the first time is always a new document. And so it has to show here that it's a new document instead of just the Tommy's docs or whatever name you choose to give to yours. That one too, we write a simple function to do that check for us. And then that function will be, let's just say, set window title. And the function name will be update title, update underscore title. And in here we perform some checks. So if self.filename, which we'll use later on, you get to know what it stands for very soon. If self.filename, and we want to check that if that one is, like if you have actually a file name there, then self.set window title. We want to set the window title to, yeah, this one will be an F string. And then the name of the document comes, then Tommy's docs also comes. Self.filename but if you don't have a file name, then we want to set the title to something that will show that as a new document. So self.set window title to something like untitled and then Tommy's docs, just to prove that or show that is a new document. Untitled. Okay, so now what we have to do is that we can call this function here in our init also. So one of the things, so self dot update title. So now when we run it, it will check if you have a file name. So now it says untitled Tommy's docs, which is just the best option for a file, a newly opened editor like that. Now we can focus on the functionality for the open file. So here I can give my comment, show and hide. Inside there, we perform some checks. If we are creating a new file and then there is some text in the editor, then we want to prompt the user that, okay, fine, you have some text there. If you go ahead, it will clean it. And then if the user wants, then the person can go ahead and clean it. If not, then it will not be created. A new file will not be created. So you have to perform some check here. And that check will be if that is the length of the editor. So self dot text edit dot to plain text. That is how we get the text from the text edit. That is, we want to check if the text dot, and I want to strip it also of all other things. Then it's not equal to 0. Then we want to show the some prompts to the user. So prompt, which will be a message box that we show. So kill message box. And then in here, we can pass some. The first one should be self. And then the second one, the title of the window that will pop up. So you can say it's new file dialog. The third one is the message itself. This will clear current content. Continue. So if, and then the third one that we pass in, let me close this sidebar for, so continue, and then we pass in the last one that's for the buttons also, or maybe I can put these ones, all of them on their new lines, just to make it nice. Then we want to give some buttons, so kill message box dot yes, and then kill message box dot no. Those are the buttons we want to show to the user. And so, but this one should not be a comma. We should put this type symbol that is yes or no. And then now we come and check if prompt, the prompt that we created, equal to kill message box dot yes. That is if the user chose yes to actually create a new file. Instead, we want to just now create a new file. That's the new function that we created in the functions.py. Here we are calling it, and then we will pass in self for the UI. But if there's no text also in the editor, then we can go ahead straight away and then create a new file. So else new, and then we can pass in self again. So this will do. So let us just test our code and see. Now there's no file. Okay, I've not even added the connection. It will not work. So self dot new action new dot triggered dot connect self.new file. Okay, we have an error. And this is one of the reasons I use try and except blocks a lot. So what we can do now to save ourselves is to grab all of this code, cut it for now, and then try. Paste it back and then except exception as E. We want to print new file creation error. And then we pass in the particular error. So now let us run our code and see. New file creation error, show message. It says built-in function or method has no attributes, show message. I think it should be coming from this functions.py status bar. This one should be lowercase, I think so. Okay, now it works. It says a flash message came to the taskbar, the status bar, saying that a new file has been created. So now let us put some text in here and then see whether it will prompt us before creating a new file. And this prompt also did not come. You should have an error somewhere. Just too many arguments. Okay. Looks like we have a lot of debugging to do today. Kill message box. Why is it too many arguments? We pass in self, a new file dialog, and then the message itself. This should be kill message box dot question. We are asking a question. Yes. So this one of course works, but if I type in some text here, now this I get the dialog that says if I choose no, it doesn't create it. If I choose yes, it wipes it, and then you have a new file created also. That will be all for the new file. Now we can focus on the open. And as we've seen in the previous ones, let's just first of all wrap it in a try except block and be free. So except exception as E, then print in an F string file opening error. Here we want to get the path that is coming in, so the path of the file should be equal to kill file dialog dot get open file name, not file names, file name. We want to get only one file, and then we pass in self also here. The title also follows, so it can be open a file. And then what follows is the directory we want it to open to. This place, you can let it open to your desktop, you can let it open to wherever you want it to open. So here, what I'll do is I'll put in colon, and then I'll just put a double slash, this one. so that it will, when I do it this way, it will always remember the previous folder I or directory I opened to, then open to that same folder instead of just maybe saying that slash and then desktop. That will always open to the desktop. If I leave it this way, it will remember the previous path and then it will open to it. But this path here will return two things, and if we actually try and then run it and then print it out, let me just print path and then you see. Okay. Let's connect here self dot open action open dot. And if I minimize this one, increase this one, I click on open, and then let's say I choose my desktop. Let me see, just query. It will bring me, you see, it's a tuple. The first one is the path to the file, and then the second one is the file extension. But we don't need this file extension for anything. So what we can do now is to, there are two ways about it, either to access the path 0 or to say path and then underscore. We don't actually need the next one, that's why we just put an underscore there. It can be anything. So here we can perform some checks if we want to. So if pass, that means if the person actually selected something, then what we want to do is we first have to set, we need another variable here called the path variable. We need it somewhere. So self dot path as part of our globals equal to, first let it be an empty string, and then in here we set self dot path to be equal to path. We will need it in the functions that follow, that's why we are setting it. And then we can also now open the file itself. With open, what we want to open is the path, and then we want to open it in the read mode. The name should rather be file instead of path. Maybe as file. Okay, open path as file, that is okay. And so we can now say the content equal to file dot read, and then after we read it, we now have to set the text in the editor. So self dot text edit dot, and then what we want to do is that we want to set the text, and then set text equal to content. And after we do that, we want to also set some variables. So now we have actually a file name that is open. So self dot file name, we want to set it to, this path here is the full path to the file, but the file name that we are interested in is the query.txt in this case. So what we can do to get that one is self.filename equal to os.path.base name. The base name will give us the name of the file alone. If you use the dir name or directory name to give us the directory where the file is located. So here we want to get the base name of path and then set it to that one also. It can also be self.path or path. Any of them should do, because at this point they will be equal. But to be on the safer side, let's make it self.path. Then afterwards, we want to also update the title. So self.update title. Self.update title. And this update title will first check and set the file name and all that. So the name will change from untitled to something like the file name itself. Now we are done with the reading of the file and everything. So what we can do is to come back and close our exception. Okay, it's already closed, so we can run our file now and see how it goes. Now let's open a file to check. So here in desktop, I think editor files. And now the file opens, and then we can see that the file name also changed up there. The title changed to the name of the file that came in. So that is also all for the open file dialog. And so that'll be the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one with the other functionalities. Thank you.